Hello and welcome to the Enjoy Anime Talkshow. You have me, Gareth, and my good associate across the camera, Freddie. We will be talking about anime shows that we hope that people have enjoyed. The take on this is I will be the lead on this, as I have seen the show that you will have seen in the title, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Freddie has not. So, Freddie, tell me, what have you been your initial thoughts before we go in depth?
I've been enjoying it. That would be a very brief overview, but yeah, it's without getting into like anything too complicated, because that's what we're going to be talking about. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's been good.
Yeah. So, when we were discussing about doing this podcast and we were trying to pick a show to do, because we want to keep the shows quite short, we don't want people to feel like we're overstaying our welcome. I think there's 26 quote-unquote official episodes of Evangelion. So why did you choose Evangelion for this initial foray?
Because I haven't watched it. I have watched quite a lot of anime, and I tried to keep up with a lot of anime. And a lot of like the more retro classic, and I think in this case this is like very much a pillar of the anime scene in general. I hadn't watched it.
Yeah.
So I was quite happy to watch it and discuss it compared to other anime I have watched.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting as well, because for the time period of like the mid to late 90s, which is when I initially watched it, off dodgy internet downloads via such amazing applications as Kazaa. It was kind of a switch up, so it wasn't like the big political mecha thing of Gundam, and it's got like slice of life elements in there. There's a lot of intriguing like reimaginings of what feel like common tropes as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It does. Yeah, it sort of almost advertises itself as a mecha anime, and then of the episodes I've watched so far, it's like it's not really the focus. It's there, it's present, and it's like the scene, but it's not.
Yeah. So, should we talk about this on an episode-to-episode basis then?
I believe that's what our notes are on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could go through what my notes are of, like across the whole four. I believe because we're doing it in 4 episode chunks. Just do the whole notes in like a chronological thing.
Yeah.
Chronological
I think. How about we talk about episode 1, how we're introduced to the world of Evangelion, and then we will discuss maybe some of the themes as we go through episodes. That feels like a good point for me. So episode 1, the Angels attack. So we're introduced to a very dark cinematic scene of this large being slithering through the water, being followed by the UN, is it, I believe? The United Nations, back of it as it goes through. They're told not to engage.
Yeah, that's true. Wasn't it before that you had the opening of the just the cityscape? Because my first note is it had vibes of 2001, Space Odyssey.
I mean, it is the film. Yeah, I mean, the setting of Evangelion's quite interesting. So it's set in the year, meant to be the year 2000, 3 years from when 3 to 4 years from when the show was scripted. And then it skips to they tell it's in 2015. So we've lived through this great tragedy already. And now we're in 2024. We had, the angels attacking, and we've had the pandemic. But the scenes that stick with me are, that you're right. You see the cityscape, then we see this massive aquatic threat appear that's being followed by I believe it's the UN. People are happy to correct me, I'm sure.
Lots of tanks just on all the hillsides and everything.
And it definitely, the whole first episode definitely gives you the mystery of the world, and it generates those questions of like, what is this thing, which is later to reveal to be an angel as it attacks this mysterious city with like these huge sea defenses and cannons, and they're willing to drop a nuke on it and it comes out unscathed. We've got people evacuating. We've got a young teenage boy making a phone call,
Yep.
awaiting a mysterious woman.
Yep, with the photo, which I do have notes
Oh,
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is a very suggestive photo. Do you want to quickly mention the photo Shinji's holding?
Yes. Well, the photo, I felt it's a bit of a strange, I suppose it's a bit of a dissonance. It feels like the photo is more to entice viewers as like a hook,
Right.
something that you'd be watching for the viewers.
Okay.
Which then, problem being, when you then apply its own logic inside the anime, this sort of internal continuity, it raises some flags, but
That's one way of describing that. Yeah.
yeah, it raises flags.
Have you ever seen the translated photo that someone put onto Reddit?
No, I'm afraid I watch in with subtitles, so I do not.
Something along the lines of, "Hi Shinji, can't wait to meet you. Check out these bad boys." With an arrow.
Oh, is that what the arrow points to her cleavage was about? Yeah,
Something along that line.
yeah, yeah. It's very much like here's like again. It's why I'm describing it as a hook. It's like here's a sexy character.
That's one way of describing Masato and her fabulous car.
Yes, yeah. But
So,
yeah, that's again. I felt like it had dissonance.
okay, so what's the dissonance for you? Is that between the global threat and then the very early sort of like high school love interest?
I suppose. Also, something to mention. I'm pretty sure, very briefly, you see a flash of Ray, who hasn't actually been properly introduced yet.
Right. Okay.
You see Ray before you see Misato.
I can't remember that off the top of my head, but
There is a flash
yeah,
in when it's doing the sort of the abandoned city.
yeah.
There's a flash of Ray,
Yeah, everyone's favorite
and
hospital patient. Yeah.
yeah, I have found, and I'm not sure. I'm waiting to see if this pans out or not. Usually, in any anime that has like romantic parts of it, if there's like a romance or romantic
Are you
interest.
saying Evangelion's a secret harem? Anime
I
phrase.
don't know. I don't know. Um, so far, no, but we'll see. Um, anything, if there's anything like that, it always seems to be a trope, or it's a very common trope, where the first female character you see is the more, I suppose you'd say, the successful love interest.
The romantic protagonist.
Yes, I'm waiting to see if that pans out because otherwise I'm curious why you see a flash of her.
Okay. Um, she's the only existing Eva pilot at that time period, isn't she?
She
And
is.
you know,
Yes.
on the casual drive to meeting Shinji's dad, you know, they get blown up.
They do.
Both of them have the combined strength to tip a car.
Yeah, it could just be a very light car.
Yeah,
but
that's very true. Masato's car is kind of a subplot in its own, I feel.
okay.
Especially over the 3 episodes.
Hmm.
But yeah, we move on. The attacks happening, evacuations are happening. The UN telling Shinji's the yet to be revealed Shinji's dad that they don't need him and that the whole Eva project is a waste of money. And then after they basically drop a tactical nuke on it, and it just brushes it off, you know, casual.
Yeah,
casual
the thing that actually hurt it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they had I forget the proper name of it, but it was like a giant mine by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
the N2 mine?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And that's like, oh, that hurt it. Oh, and it just kind of
And then the cloud,
regenerated.
then
Cool.
The cloud moved along, and it was like, anyway, after
Yes.
stepping in this dog turd, I will continue.
Yeah, very much.
And this is the thing. So that I think the first 3 episodes, the way they're sort of stitched together, the mystery of episode 1 to generate the questions like, what is this massive thing that they call an angel? Why is this a problem? Why Shinji just being called out of his school to meet his father, who 10 minutes later is revealed to be the head of Metal Gear. You know, who's building these? and this is the bit that I find interesting especially as we go into the end of episode 1 into episode 2, and it's kind of like, I suppose, the one of the underlying themes of the series is that Evas are artificial humans that are generated and piloted. So, there's a lot of questions in there. But the humans that run on batteries, and they have to be attached to a big old power cable. So it's, I just feel there's a level of efficiency that's just been completely ignored to make these massive weapons. And then later on, I'm assuming they get more mobile because there's less cable talked about, and there's a lot more ninja robot action. Like, one of the topics for me throughout this is the interesting subpoint of the almost emotional manipulation of Shinji through episodes. Like, he turns up in a crisis. He's given a do or die situation, and a lot of the stuff he seems to do is people pleasing. Like, he has no boundaries at all. And when he tries to erect boundaries, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to do it. You can't make me do it." And it's like, "Well, I guess everyone dies then." What a terrible person you are. Imagine just letting everyone die, Shinji. And there's the term I believe the kids use these days is gaslighting. What I like to call that is trauma. And there's some intriguing dynamics, like me and you were discussing, like Shinji doesn't live with his father. There's did he mention his mother in the first 3 episodes?
I believe the first note I've got on that is probably either episode. Is it episode 5? No. No, it's not mentioned. So
been sent away by his dad, lives in a school, I believe it says in like episode 2 or 3. And he's thrust in via trauma and basically like peer pressure and abuse is the way I view it, to become the pilot of a unit that is there is a language gag in here. It has a success rate of 0.00001, and even though it's Unit 1, it's had the nickname of the 09, which is German for "oh no" unit, because even like Ri, who you've mentioned, who pilots the other EVA unit, cannot pilot the 1. And an interesting development happens with the EVA unit when Shinji meets it and he looks at it, which is, as the Angel attacks, some of the structure collapses and the EVA unit autopilots.
Its hand covers Shinji to protect him from the wreckage.
And he, after being peer pressured by his dad, who we get the big reveal of after the big hand save, I believe, or is it just after? They talk about the EVA unit acting on its own and its own impulse, and we get into the initial fight, and that's kind of the end of episode 1, isn't it?
Yep, that is.
And then we move into episode 2, which starts with quite an interesting premise, which is it starts in a hospital bed.
Yeah, it does. It's wakes up with him saying it's an unfamiliar ceiling.
Yeah, which is so one of the things that's interesting, because I've been watching it through Netflix and Freddie has, is Netflix have retitled the episodes, and yet in the middle of the episodes we still get the original episode names. So I think it's called Unfamiliar Ceilings, and then I think like the Netflix title is like Riposte or something like that. I'll have to check that up and correct myself later on. But we see the aftermath of the attack, and we actually then kind of cut into what happened. How did we get here? And my note on this, would you like me to read it? Because I wrote it in all caps.
Go on.
Episode 2, which the Beast is what Netflix call it. And that is Faceplant Baby, which is when they're trying to like, Shinji, you've never driven a car. This is your first time. Baby's first steps, quite literally baby's first steps in front of this angel that is here to destroy us, that it's for some reason targeting the headquarters where is it Nerve or Nerve V?
I've got all my notes down as Nerve.
Because I remember in the original, so Netflix have also redubbed it, and I also remember points in the original dub where when it was like Nerve, some people started like enunciating the V, or some of the side characters who've like audio boothed in over enunciating the V, so it was like Nerve. So yeah, Shinji goes in, and he takes a pounding. There is head trauma pounding in this.
He doesn't even doesn't fight back because it's like, he's being told basically like, here, you're on the motorway. You've never driven before? Don't care.
Yeah. It's like, Shinji's more like, I'm just taking a little nap. It's like when you've got a toddler and they fall over, and sometimes instead of like, I'm going to try again, they're like, I'm down here now. This is how it is.
This is my world.
Yep. Just roll around a bit. But yeah, that then later on, especially with some of the scenes with the hospital, it makes me wonder whether Shinji is not just suffering emotional trauma, but has been left with like physical damage trauma, because so it's Faceplant Baby, Eva takes a pounding, and then I've got the note, brain damage? In question mark, because he just gets hydraulic pressed in the face for all of his marbles.
Isn't there also like, there's like a light that's coming out of the back of the angel's elbow, and is like, I'm not sure if it's like an energy thing or a physical thing.
Yeah.
But it is slamming repeatedly into the eye socket of the Eva.
Yeah.
Which causes cranial damage to the Eva unit, which I believe is then the pilot feels, even though it doesn't inflict the actual trauma to them. It just
so
like a phantom pain.
Is it just before or just after this where the angel grabs the Eva by the arm and starts squeezing the arm?
And breaks the arm.
It's breaking my arm. And I've written a note here of, does Eva project Shinji psychologically as well as physically from things like the attack? Because we had the debris protecting when he wasn't even in the Eva. We've got things like how much of a connect is there between the pilot and the Eva? Like, they're telling him not to panic at one point, aren't they? It's like, the machine, you don't feel this. But there's a scene, I can't remember whether it's it's in episode 3, we'll talk about that in a moment, but there's a section in this where like you get the psychological relation between Shinji and Eva having their arms crushed, and he's like, it's breaking my arm, and they're like, it's not broken, relax. And he's like, there's so much like intensity psychologically, physically, you sort of, it makes me ask what he's going through in the hospital. Like, whose memories are whose? Are the Eva's memories implanting into him? Is he implanting onto the Eva? Like, how's the two-way run on that?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't think it's ever shown that the Eva is learning from him or is feeling his feelings, be it physically or emotionally. Maybe emotionally. We'll get to that.
The reason I say this is after that moment, and I'm sort of going off memory here, so if someone wants to comment and correct me, I'm happy to be corrected. Shinji kind of blacks out in the Eva, doesn't he? And then,
he does.
And then the Eva goes, right, I've got
Berserk
this.
Time.
Lads, I've got this. Don't worry. I don't need to think. I just need to aggressively kick things and then somehow reverse the... Do you remember the name of the generator that the Angels have? Is it the AT field, I want to say?
Oh, yeah, the hexagonal field.
Yeah. And apparently he's the... Unit 1 is the only Eva to, like, interact with that without it being problematic, because they keep it open like a kid at Easter trying to get to a chocolate egg.
Or Christmas, trying to open a Christmas present. Yeah.
The wrapping might have been a little bit tougher, but gets there eventually.
Yeah, it's. I believe again. I'm running from memory. When the Eva is actually physically trying to rip the field apart, it shows it, physically, but then it has a quick flash to the command center in Nerve, where they're monitoring it, and it shows that the Eva 1 is producing its own field that's interacting with and countering the field that the Angel is producing. So yes, and I think they were very surprised by that because it's never happened before.
And is this the first time the Eva starts trying to eat the Angel?
Well, when it first off goes berserk, it opens a mouth, which is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, was it a little bit?
Didn't have that before.
Yeah, was it like the Sonic the Hedgehog human teeth reveal for you? Was it like, this is uncomfortable?
No,
that's an actual mouth and teeth.
It was a bit like, the thing I got is it felt like it. At this point, when I was watching it, I was still under the impression that Evas had to be physically produced. They are 100% machine.
Okay.
Although the way it's acting does make you question it. But the fact that it can open a mouth, to me, felt, and it had teeth. Yeah, it had teeth. Made it feel like it had to be produced that way.
Yeah.
It's not just going to, accidental,
accidental human parts.
Yeah. If it could just produce a mouth out of nothing, if it was manufactured to not have a mouth and then had a mouth, that would feel very sort of in the realm of Lovecraft.
Yeah.
In that it's producing something that shouldn't be there, that would have that very much.
Mentioned in the command center, we get the Masato personality flip from flirtatious taxi driver to, well, you've got to do it now, Shinji.
I did mention in my notes. I've mentioned that Misato's character very much flip flops, one or the other.
Yeah. I think you were, before we recorded this and we had a little bit of ramble, I think you make a good comment about Masato's character in the world of Evangelion, or especially in the first few episodes, which is she's not a military woman; she's a woman in the military.
Yes,
which I think is an intriguing disposition, because like a lot of TV shows have characters who are specifically like, oh, I'm an army guy, I do army guy stuff all the time, and Masato's like, actually, I have a work persona and a home persona, and there's an overlap between those two things. There's like an emotional understanding as when to and how to use them. Although it's very confusing in the beginning when she's like, oh, don't make Shinji do it. And now when he's fighting in the Eva and he's getting beaten up, he's like, make Shinji do it. To be encouraging in a sort of captainish way. It's like, how about you kill the Angel, then afterwards you can watch me buy all this beer for my apartment.
Yeah, I believe I'll get back to that on one of the later episodes, whether it's 4 or 5, we'll see. Okay. Because I had another similar thing then, but another similar thought. But we'll get there when we get there.
So, we get basically the Eva battle in episode 2, where it rips up the Angel, gets decapitated. Tis but a flesh wound.
Yep.
And then is recovered. And
the ending of the Angel thing, I found it quite strange, because when it grabs onto the Eva unit and self-destructs, which we did have a ramble about beforehand as well. I'm not sure if we'll cover that, but regardless,
I'm sure we can talk about it now while we're at it.
The thing I found quite strange was how beforehand the Angel is always shown to have a form. It can regenerate said form, as we saw earlier in the previous episode, but it's had a form that it's gone to.
Okay.
When it wraps around the Eva's head, it just becomes like a cloth.
Yeah.
It just completely wraps around it, loses all its form to just try and kill this Eva unit. Yeah. I'm not saying that, but it's just how it can just be like, I don't care about my form anymore. I looked human, which might be a point in and of itself, but we'll ignore it. But then it's just, I am a sphere now. I'm a sphere that encompasses your head.
Life is ball.
Life is very simple as a ball. But anyways, It.
But in this case, it's not Rolly, it's
Mm.
the Explodey.
It is the self-destruct.
Yeah.
But it's.
Which makes you suspicious, doesn't it? Because we've talked about the self-destruct of the angel.
Yes. Yeah, this is a big thing in my notes, that no creature that has evolved naturally would have a self-destruct, especially a creature that would be like an angel.
Right.
Because if you are okay, if the angels had evolved on some other world, if they were an evolved biological creature, would you argue they would be a prey or a predator?
Okay. I can
I
see.
cannot imagine anything that would prey upon angels, because that would
Yeah.
imply there's something that
I was
goes
going
along
to
and
say they
eats them.
definitely have strong apex predator vibes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What apex predator has an instinct to self-destruct? I can't think of lions that just decide to just.
Beyond some human predators,
Hmm.
very limited.
Hmm.
But I posit to you, young Padawan, do you think the self destruct is a predator prey mechanic, or do you think, because the whole premise so far is that the angels are trying to get somewhere within the city, which is revealed to be Tokyo 3, with its
Yes.
slidey buildings.
Yeah. God, I hate the sliding building. Never mind.
But is it trying to destroy Evas, or is it trying to mine into Tokyo 3? In which case, dynamite mining was very popular at one point. That
My
nobody
entire argument isn't to say that this is the case. My entire argument is to say this. If this is a case, it is entirely stupid because it doesn't exist. Which is why I'm saying it doesn't exist in nature, which points you to the idea that the angels aren't natural.
Okay.
Because nothing in nature does that.
I can get behind that. And then we sort of get through the fight, and then we get Big Gun. So there's conversations of improving the Eva. There's a talk of about a 3-week repeat or a turnaround on repair. And then we go into episode 3, which falls almost into like the movie narrative of trilogies, where, episode 1 we get the mystery and the suspense. In episode 2 we get some answers, but there's still mystery and intrigue. Then episode 3 kind of loops back around to episode 1 to be like, Shinji is going to classes. People were like, oh, there's a new kid in. And then there was a new EVA unit at the same time as him transferring in and getting into it, while that poor teacher's doing the whole exposition.
He does some exposition.
Explaining what angels are, that they've come out of some ice caps, that there was global flooding. They refer to it as the second impact. This guy's got like 2 minutes of screen time, and he's got a lot of work to do. And those kids are not ignoring him. It's very rude.
Yeah.
Like, guys,
my notes on episode 3. Yeah, my notes on episode 3 are considerably shorter than the other previous 2 episodes. But so the opening of the episode starts with him doing his training, his sort of shooting practice.
Yeah.
And I've put he definitely has trauma here.
Yeah.
I've put PTSD because, it feels like he's going through some stuff and he's not been given a break.
See, the gun training isn't where I feel the PTSD really shows in episode.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's the first time you actually can be like, he's just like in like a robotic, just I'll do what you tell me and I'll just say yes.
Literally, it's a difficult situation for that, and I can get behind why you get there. I can 100% see that. But he's also a people pleaser, and he's like, well, I'm part of this now, and I've got to do this. So, which again is a trauma thing. And he, like, rewatching Evangelion this time around has been an eye opener for me, because I've recently done some counselling training. So it's like seeing all the trauma stuff and all this, and being like all these red and green flags of like people's relationships and boundaries, or in Shinji's case, the complete lack of them. Some people should maybe look up the word enmeshment, which is a family dynamic where everyone in the family has no boundaries, and they become like an amorphous emotional creature, which is difficult to communicate and work with, and it's very it's basically like sort of soggy material that just flops about.
So it's like paper mache.
Yeah.
Okay.
But people are now talking about the evacuation in this episode, so we get
Mm-hmm.
we get a greater sense of the world around us. We get more information. We also get Masato very upset. I've got a note that says Masato's hot date spat, where she takes Shinji around Tokyo 3. We see more of your favourite slidey buildings. There is a Trash Panda reveal.
Oh yeah.
That is, and by the Trash Panda I mean Masato's apartment. When she's like, "Oh, it's a little bit messy. I've just moved in," and then she's like, "Oh, I exclusively live off takeaway and beer." I've got a very big note which is highlighted with bold colours and stuff, and it just says "Penguin reveal."
Yeah, pen 2.
Pen.
Oh, it's pen squared, which is true.
Yeah.
Yes, I've just again.
Masato calls him Pen.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which feels like very much her energy.
Yeah.
And then we get more flashback of like the angel attack, and I've put flashback trauma memories, and then more Berserk Eva moments. Especially when he's talking to, is it Toji, who's the guy
Toji, who beats him up in this episode. Yes.
What a guy.
Yeah. What
a young man.
What a stellar 14-year-old.
Yeah, I think relatable. His sister's missing, is she? Or
No,
is she in
no. It's
hospital?
that during the fight, one of the slidey buildings had his younger sister in, and that happened to get caught up in the fight.
All right.
Because I believe in the previous episode you see Eva 1 punch a building and it just slides.
Yeah.
It's like it's buildings on ice.
Yeah.
I
mean, the whole Eva Berserk thing, it's just like no concept. It's like any superhero thing where like, collateral damage is your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
And then we end up with another angel attack, which is faster than previously. A world record angel to angel combat situation has occurred. And this is where we get, probably in my opinion, a truer look at Shinji's trauma response.
This is a very good look at it.
And especially, we get an interesting moment in this fight where we see a hand underneath the Eva armor.
We do.
And now the question at this stage, even though we're told Evas are humans, or artificially generated humans or something like that, they never, we're episode 3. Why do we need full information and disclosure?
We've already had an exposition dump this episode.
We've got another 23 episodes to get through. We'll get there. Yeah. Listen. But the way the shot is shown is that Shinji seeing his hand? Or is it a reveal of what's underneath the Eva armor?
It could very much be a case of that. Again, going back to the Lovecraft idea of if the hand was broken and there was something he didn't, like Shinji didn't understand, he's going to project what he does understand on top of it.
Which is again a trauma thing of like, these are the situations I understand, these are how I can get through difficult times. Because the base concept of trauma is going through an experience that you are not mentally prepared for, but having to find a methodology to get through it. And then it's the change and interaction with your biochemistry, your brain interactions, to how you cope with that in the long run. And obviously we know of very severe, like Vietnam PTSD, things like people smell diesel from the vehicles and it triggers the fight flight responses and stuff like that, and Shinji's getting that, but in this moment he definitely goes into a very traumatized fight response, as they sort of shadow his face like a skull. And the level of anger, it's like not even anger, he's just remorseless, isn't he, with the situation. That knife does some jobs. Like,
I feel like if you were to be seeing it through Shinji's eyes, you would almost have like that red mist descend. Because once he is finished absolutely shanking angel to oblivion.
The notes I've got that happens with that angel is revenge arm rip. So it's like, well, I'm going to do to you what you've done to me, which is an intriguing
An eye for an eye.
An eye to an eye, an arm for an arm.
Yep.
There's a big blast listed, which he sort of jumps. And then the more intriguing point in the fight for me was stabs angel with own rib.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is definitely like, it's almost a controlled version of the berserk state. But it's still like, this is why I talked or mentioned earlier, like the psychological reflection potential is that Shinji may have subconsciously picked up on the angel's attack on how it killed the other one, and it is like, oh well, I saw you use extreme violence, which means that I must use extreme violence.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Or in this case, if it's broke, keep breaking it, because that's how it died last time.
Yeah.
Whether that's just me picking up something and you're just like, okay.
Yeah, I just kind of saw that. I'm like, you're in a I need to kill this mode, and you saw something that could help you kill it faster.
Yeah, survival, fight and flight sort of stuff. Is there anything else that kind of happens? That we sort of end episode 3 with him doing like the rescue thing, and they come out to get him. Like he picks up Toji and the photograph kid. Does the photograph kid have a name? I didn't catch it if he did.
I think you find his name later. I don't actually think I've made a note of it yet. So
forget
at the moment he is nameless. Yeah.
NPC.
NPC. I'm quite surprised. At the end of the fight, I made a note on this. At the end of the fight, he just breaks down and has a cry.
Yeah.
He just has a sob to himself.
I think that's kind of a standard trauma response, isn't it? It's all like the venting up of one emotion, and then
which is why I
into the next emotion.
I imagined that when he was in the fight, he had this like red mist, and also because you have Misato shouting at him over the radio,
so it's
telling him not to do that.
It's gone from being out of control into unrecognized realization. Like,
but
this is the mess that I've made.
But I feel like it's pretty much that exactly. Actually, it's just that mist has lifted, and he's left with this is the blood on my hands.
The realization, the Lady Macbeth moment. Be gone, foul spot. To any English majors who correct me. So, is there anything else that you feel that we need to touch on, or some of the themes? I could just do a whole counselling case study on Shinji for these 3 episodes. We've not
nothing in terms of themes. I've got notes on things I thought were important, but one of the things I noticed, again, with the crying bit, it kind of shows, it's helping to show that people don't know much about the Evas, because it's like Toji beat Shinji up because of what he thought happened during the fight.
Yeah.
Then when you see him, when Toji's in the cockpit, or I forget the proper name of it, but he's in with Shinji when Shinji has his breakdown and just starts crying, and it's like they go, "Oh, this we don't know much, and I've been really mean to you based on essentially incorrect information."
Yeah.
And then as something to Toji's character, it's like he's described as really bullheaded. So then it's like, oh, he's going to go and ring Shinji to apologize. Picks up the phone and then doesn't ring him.
Yeah.
Which I know it's awkward.
There's a weird explanation with Toji though, where it's like, I was going to ring you and then I didn't know what I was going to say, and then he sort of doesn't know whether he's angry or happy or grumpy or sleepy or dozy.
He's 14. He doesn't know much about what's going through his head at all.
Yeah, but it's his response, and he does. You get the strong feeling that he wants to do something, and he knows he should do something, but there's no fall over into action. He's sort of keeps rethinking and ruminating on some of the situations, and it's like, he almost killed my sister, but saved me. There's an interesting dichotomy, I feel, with Toji's emotional response. And that is, he sees Shinji as a hero, for saving him and NPC cameraman. But also partially he's still got that memory of like he could have killed my sister, and I think that gives him that sort of conflicted feeling between him and like trying to speak to him, because a little part of him still trying to process, and there's like an emotional wrestling match I feel for Toji. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
I agree with the emotional wrestling match, but I would more argue that it's, again, as I said, I've done something wrong, or he knows that he's wrong and he's scared to admit it.
Yeah,
is what I was feeling. That it's like, oh, I thought you were in control when you did this. You punched this building and it's threatened my sister's life. It's like,
but now
I'm not sure. Yeah, but now I know more. I'm in the wrong, and to call you admit I know that I was wrong.
I mean, before he actually saves him and before he enters the Eva, he turns to Toji and he says, I don't want to do this. I just, I do it, but I don't want to. And Toji's upset that he doesn't want to do it. Like, he punches him in the face because he's like, you're meant to be a soldier. And he's like, it's not by choice, just by how the cards have fallen. And there's that dichotomy of, for Shinji, it just adds to him being like, oh, my dad needs me, Masato needs me, the world needs me.
Yeah,
there's
all the world is on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And he's 14.
Yeah. I mean, this is anime, Freddie. If you're not a teenager and you're not saving the world, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're old and irrelevant. Yeah. is the basic answer.
In front of me. Thanks.
Unfortunately, I have also fallen into that category now because there are very few anime that's like, you're 20 plus.
I'll maybe show you something off screen of like early 90s anime, and it's like this character is 25 and they've got like grey hair, balding, and it's like, yes, of course, 20s, yes.
Oh,
not
again,
full of energy at all. No, just passing away.
Children could be savage.
Tell me about it. Before we close off the episode, is there anything that you would like us to quickly wrap up on?
Nope, nothing so far.
You heard that, Freddie has nothing to wrap up on. Hopefully, you enjoyed this
I am very cold.
Of the Enjoy Anime Talkshow. We will be back to discuss episodes 4, 5, and 6. And this will also be going up on various podcast sites, as well as up on YouTube. So hopefully see you again soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.